Welcome back to Numerical Methods for Chemical Engineering, CHE 431. Last time we talked about periodic boundary conditions and I showed you a MATLAB script how to apply that. Today I'm going to show you how to apply transmitting and reflecting boundary conditions using Leapfrog, Upwind, and Lax-Friedrichs. And if time permits, I'm going to also talk about absorbing boundary conditions. So let's begin with transmitting boundary conditions in upwind scheme. So in transmitting boundary conditions, what we want to do is we want to have a flow of species or whatever it's in, let's say, the channel to go through the boundary without any reflection. So to do that, what we do is in upwind, if you look at the upwind discretization for any time, let's say Tn, we get the information from Tn minus 1 at point I minus alpha, depending on whether alpha is positive or negative, times Tn minus 1, and then it's forward Euler if alpha is positive, and backward Euler if alpha is negative. So here's alpha negative and we use backward Euler. So this already actually implemented transmitting boundary condition, because if, let's say, alpha is positive at time Tn, we are getting information from the point, let's say we are sitting at point I and alpha is negative, then we are getting information from point I plus 1, which is a point ahead of us. That's because alpha is negative, so that means if you're sitting on a boundary, so this is going to be this is going to be the left boundary, and we're getting information from the point on the right side. If alpha is positive and we're sitting on the right boundary, then point I is going to be the boundary point, and then I minus 1 is the domain point. We're getting information from the left. So this already actually implemented the transmitting boundary conditions in upwind scheme. So if I run this code, what happens is if we initially start with the bell-shaped wave, you see that as it hits the boundary, nothing actually gets reflected and everything goes through it. And so this is called transmitting boundary. That means it transmits everything from the domain into the boundary. All right? You can actually do the same thing if alpha is negative. You can actually do that. So if I go back here and let's see, I can change the direction of the velocity to -1. It should work. So now my wave is going from right to left, and when it hits the boundary, you see it completely gets into the boundary and nothing gets reflected, so it basically goes through it. You can think of this as like, like a sponge or anything like that, and everything goes through it, actually gets completely into the boundary. Alright, so that is transmitting boundary conditions using upwind. The next boundary condition I'm going to talk about is reflecting. So reflecting, the way we impose reflecting boundary conditions, if you look at the notes on page 180, the reflecting boundary conditions is by applying derivative equal to 0. So if the derivative equal to 0 at the boundary point, that point is imposing reflecting boundary conditions. So let's look at MATLAB script, how we can do that in Leapfrog. So this is the scheme we talked about last time. This piece is the Leapfrog method, which is Tn plus 1 at point I is equal to Tn minus 1 at point I, and then minus alpha, and then this thing is the central difference of Tn I plus 1, Tn I minus 1. Now, if you look here, my I, or x index, varies from 2 to n minus 1. I'm not including I equal 1 or I equal n. And the reason is because I'm going to impose a reflecting boundary. So for point I, x equal 1, for t equal n plus 1, and I index equal 1, then I want to impose derivative equal to 0. So think of this as a simple derivative, which means u2 minus u1 divided by del x equal to 0. So if you look at the notes, let's say I want to have du dx equals 0 at point 1 right here. You can write simple forward Euler for the derivative and say u2 minus u1 divided by del x equal to 0. And that means u2 is equal to u1 because numerator has to be 0. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. So u2 is equal to u1 at any point tn plus 1. You can do the same thing for the right point, the right boundary. So at time tn plus 1, x equal, n has to be equal to x equal n minus 1, and that's exactly what I have. So this, let's see, I have it here. Now that would be pretty much like this one. This is between point 1 and 2. You can write the same thing between point n minus 1 and n. So it's going to be un minus 1 is equal to un down the road. And that's what I have here. Un is equal to un minus 1. Let's run that one. So initially I have a bell shape. It's traveling from left to right. So you see that as it hits the boundary, it's supposed to basically transmit, or okay, this is reflecting. Sorry, reflecting. So right here. So we know that in Leapfrog, wave can only go one direction. So if it's supposed to reflect this traveling wave right on this boundary, because the method cannot handle propagating wave from right to left, you don't see any wave propagating. You see some small wiggles here, and when these wiggles actually traveling, you can see that. When they go back and hit the other boundary, then suddenly you see the wave shows up. So let's look at that again. So it hits the boundary, these wiggles are created, and wiggles are going backward. So that's the front of the wave. It's traveling from right to left, it's right here. Now, there you go, it hits the wall, and then suddenly the second wave shows up. And the reason is because in Leapfrog, wave can only propagate one way depending on alpha. And if this wave hits here, the reflection cannot go through it because then for reflection alpha is going to be negative. But the problem is implemented with alpha equals positive. So that's why you see these wiggles instead of having a large wave going from right to left. But then when it hits this boundary, suddenly you see the other wave shows up because the reflection at this boundary is valid, and it can work because the reflected wave now is going from left to right, which is exactly along the alpha we implemented. So alpha was positive, right? That's why when it hits here, you see the reflection, but when it hits here, you don't see the reflection. Right, so let me stop that before it kills my laptop. So that was a reflecting boundary condition in Leapfrog. Now let's look at, let's see what I have here. We can look at absorbing boundary. So absorbing boundary can be implemented by setting the displacement or the concentration equal to 0 at the boundary point. So when the concentration is equal to 0, that means the boundary is absorbing. So let's see how we can implement that. Alright, so this is a Leapfrog, and I'm going to implement absorbing boundary. So let's look at that. This is, remember for Leapfrog we need to create two initial conditions, one at time, let's say 1, and the second is at time 2, and then we can use 1 and 2 to create the values at t equal 3, because any time tn plus 1 is related to n minus 1, that means as well as n. So that means we need we need the values at time n-1 and time n. So we need two sets of initial conditions. The first one is given by the problem. The second one, we're going to use a method like upprint to create the initial condition at tn. So n-1 is given, we create at time tn, and now we calculate at tn plus 1. So this one is the leapfrog, and now here's the absorbing. So at the right boundary, this is n, I'm going to put the concentration equal to 0, and the left boundary, I also put the concentration equal to 0. So these two actually implement absorbing boundary. Let's see how that shows up. Alright, so now I'm going to make traveling wave a bit faster. So kill that. So my alpha is 0.1. I'm going to increase it to 0.5. And we know that alpha is positive, so the wave, and this is less than 1, so it should be stable. And the wave is propagating from left to right because alpha is positive. So there you go. So I have a square wave. It's propagating from the left to right. It hits the boundary, and you see the velocity, and the concentration is right here, is equal to 0. But then, you know, because these are explicit methods, you see these errors shows up. This error shows up, which travels from right to left as it hits the boundary. These errors won't grow much because we are within the stable regime, so the stability is when alpha is less than 1. But we do see these waves actually show up. So these are just numerical errors that are associated with the explicit methods. Alright, so again, I'm looking at absorbing boundary, which means the concentration has to be 0 at this point, and that's exactly, you see this one is always pinned. On the left side is also absorbing, so it means the concentration has to be 0. And so now when it hits here, you see the concentration is always 0. Right, again, these errors that you see show up as like wiggles, traveling wiggles, is because we are using explicit methods, and explicit methods always prone to have errors. But the errors are bounded because alpha is less than 1. Right, so I have to stop this. So this was absorbing boundary. Now, in the interest of time, I can also explain transmitting boundary in Max-Frederick's. So let's look at transmitting boundary. Well, actually we can look at the script directly. So for transmitting boundary in Lax-Frederick's, so this piece is just Lax-Frederick's without even imposing anything. These two lines are the boundary conditions. So if I want to do transmitting boundary, then that means anything, let's say anything at the second point of the domain at time tn would transmit information to the point on the left side, which is point 1, in the next time step. So basically anything in the domain will be transmitted into the boundary to the left side. And this one, when we're sitting at point n, anything from n-1, which means a point in the domain, transmits the information from that point to the boundary point. So from n-1, anything goes to n, and from point 2, anything goes to point 1 in the next time step. So this is time tn, and on the left side I have tn plus 1. So that is how we impose transmitting boundary. That means everything in the domain will be transmitted completely to the boundary without any reflection. So let's see if that works with Max-Frederick's. So just going to run it. So here's the wave. This is a traveling wave. It hits the boundary, and you see that it completely goes through the wall without any reflection. You can change the alpha to have a left going or left traveling wave. You would see the same thing. Alright. So I hope this shows how we impose different kinds of boundary conditions with Lax-Frederick's, leapfrog, and upprint. Alright, so stay tuned for the next chapter in boundary conditions, and thanks for watching.